Karen Walters slammed her fist against the wooden podium, the echo reverberating through the crowded town hall. "This is an outrage," she shouted, her face flushed with fury. "Those animals are a menace, and I demand they be removed immediately." The room erupted in a cacophony of shouts and jeers, but Karen refused to be silenced. She glared defiantly at the gathered residents, daring them to challenge her. In the front row, Sarah Miller gripped the arms of her chair, her knuckles turning white. She knew exactly what was at stake: her family's small farm and the beloved animals that called it home. "You can't do this," she pleaded, her voice trembling with emotion. "Those animals are our livelihood, our family. You have no right to take them away." Karen scoffed, her lips curling into a sneer. "I have every right, young lady. As the head of the neighborhood association, I'm putting an end to this blatant disregard for our community's rules. Those animals are a nuisance, and they will be gone by the end of the week." Sarah felt her heart race as panic set in. She had to stop Karen, but how? The neighborhood association held immense power, and their rules were strict. No livestock, no exceptions. She glanced around the room, desperate for someone, anyone, to come to her defense. That's when she saw him. Jack, the quiet and unassuming farmer who had tended to the land for as long as she could remember. He stood up, his weathered face set with determination. "This isn't about the rules, Karen," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This is about a small family trying to make a living, to provide for their community. You can't just take that away from us." Karen sneered. "I can, and I will. These animals are a nuisance, and they have no place in our pristine neighborhood. The decision has been made, and there's nothing you can do about it." Sarah felt her heart sink. It was true. The neighborhood association had the power to enforce their rules, no matter how unjust they might be. She stared at the floor, her mind racing, searching for a way to save her family's farm. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the back of the room. "We won't let you do this, Karen." It was Mrs. Takahashi, a longtime resident known for her fierce loyalty to the community. "This farm is important to all of us. It provides us with fresh, local produce and supports our local economy. You can't just take that away." The crowd erupted in cheers and applause, their voices rising in a chorus of defiance. Karen's face twisted with rage, her grip tightening on the podium. She had never anticipated such fierce opposition, and she was quickly losing control of the situation. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could stop Karen and save the farm. She sat up straighter, her eyes shining with determination. This wasn't just about her family's livelihood. It was about the heart and soul of their community, and she was ready to fight for it. The tension in the town hall was palpable as the crowd continued to voice their opposition to Karen's demands. Sarah watched as her neighbors, one by one, stood up and made their voices heard, each passionately defending the small family farm that had been a part of their community for generations. Jack, the stoic farmer, continued to speak, his calm demeanor belying the fierce determination in his eyes. "This farm isn't just about the animals, Karen. It's about our way of life, our connection to the land and to each other. These animals are part of our family, and we won't let you take that away from us." Karen's face twisted with fury, her knuckles turning white as she gripped the podium. "This is not up for discussion," she shouted, her voice rising above the din. "The decision has been made, and you will all comply. These animals are a nuisance, and they will be gone by the end of the week, whether you like it or not." The crowd erupted in a chorus of boos and jeers, and Sarah felt a surge of hope. If they could just hold their ground, maybe they could change Karen's mind. She turned to her husband, Mark, and squeezed his hand, a silent plea for him to stay strong. Mark squeezed her hand in return, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and resolve. "We can't give up, Sarah," he whispered. "This farm is everything to us, and we can't let Karen take that away." Across the room, Mrs. Takahashi stood up, her frail frame belying the steel in her gaze. "We won't back down, Karen," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "This farm is the heart of our community, and we will fight to protect it, no matter what." The crowd erupted in a roar of approval, and Sarah felt a surge of pride. They were all in this together, united in their determination to save the farm and the way of life it represented. Karen's face twisted with fury, her eyes darting around the room as she realized that she was quickly losing control of the situation. She slammed her fist against the podium, her voice shaking with rage. "This is not over," she hissed. "I will not be defied, and I will not back down. These animals will be gone, and there's nothing you can do about it." With that, she turned and stormed out of the room, leaving the stunned crowd in her wake. Sarah felt a surge of relief, but she knew that the battle was far from over. Karen was a formidable opponent, and she wouldn't give up without a fight. As the crowd began to disperse, Sarah turned to Jack and placed a hand on his arm. "Thank you for standing up for us," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "We can't do this alone, and we're grateful to have you on our side." Jack nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "We're in this together, Sarah," he said, "and we're not going to let Karen win." With that, the stage was set for a fight that would define the future of their community. The next few days were a flurry of activity as the residents of the small town mobilized to defend the family farm. Sarah and Mark spent countless hours meeting with their neighbors, rallying support, and strategizing their next move. Jack, the steadfast farmer, became the de facto leader of the resistance. He organized town hall meetings, canvassed the streets, and tirelessly advocated for the preservation of the farm and its animals. His unwavering determination inspired the community, and they rallied behind him with a fervor that caught Karen and the neighborhood association off guard. Meanwhile, Karen was not about to back down. She used every tool at her disposal, from threatening legal action to leveraging her connections within the local government. She made it clear that she would stop at nothing to see her vision of a pristine community come to fruition, even if it meant destroying the very heart of the town. One evening, as Sarah and Mark were preparing for another community meeting, a loud knock at the door startled them. They opened it to find a somber-faced Jack, his brow furrowed with concern. "What is it, Jack?" Sarah asked, her voice tinged with worry. "It's the animals," he replied, his voice low. "Someone has been sabotaging the farm. The fences are cut, the water troughs are poisoned, and a few of the animals are missing." Sarah felt her heart sink. "But who would do something like that?" she asked, her voice trembling. Jack shook his head, his expression grim. "I think we all know the answer to that," he said, his eyes narrowing. Without another word, they set out for the farm, their footsteps quickened by a sense of dread. As they approached the property, the extent of the damage became clear. The once thriving farm lay in disarray, a testament to the malicious intent of its attacker. Sarah felt tears welling in her eyes as she surveyed the scene. "This is all my fault," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "If I had just given in to Karen's demands, none of this would have happened." Mark wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "This is not your fault, Sarah," he said, his voice firm. "Karen is the one who did this, and we won't let her get away with it." Jack stepped forward, his eyes blazing with determination. "We're not going to let her win," he said, his voice laced with resolve. "We're going to fight this, and we're going to win, for the sake of our community and for the sake of our way of life." As the three of them stood amid the devastation, a newfound sense of purpose took hold. They had drawn a line in the sand, and they were prepared to defend it with everything they had. The battle lines had been drawn, and the stakes had never been higher. The news of the sabotage quickly spread through the community, igniting a firestorm of outrage and determination. Residents flocked at the town hall, their faces etched with a mix of anger and resolve. Jack stood at the podium, his weathered face set with a steely gaze. "This is not just an attack on our farm," he said, his voice booming across the packed room. It's an attack on our way of life, our community, and our very sense of who we are." The crowd erupted in a chorus of cheers and applause, their voices rising in a united declaration of defiance. Sarah felt a surge of pride as she watched her neighbors, each one standing up to defend the farm and the values it represented. Karen, seated in the front row, glared at the gathering, her lips drawn into a tight, thin line. She had not anticipated such a fierce and relentless opposition, and the realization that her plans might be thwarted filled her with a burning rage. As the meeting progressed, the residents shared their stories, their voices thick with emotion. They spoke of the farm's role in their lives, the joy they found in its bounty, and the sense of community it fostered. One by one, they pledged their unwavering support, vowing to do whatever it took to protect the farm and its animals. Sarah listened, her heart swelling with gratitude and determination. This was more than just a fight for her family's livelihood. It was a fight for the very soul of their town. And she was more than ready to do whatever it took to win. As the meeting drew to a close, Jack stepped forward once again, his eyes scanning the sea of faces before him. "We all know what's at stake here," he said, his voice strong and resolute. "Karen and the Neighborhood Association have made it clear that they won't stop until they get their way. But we're not going to let that happen. We're going to fight, and we're going to win." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause, their spirits lifted by Jack's words. Sarah felt a newfound sense of hope, and she knew that they were all in this together, a community united in a common purpose. As the residents began to file out of the town hall, Sarah caught sight of Karen, her face twisted with rage. Their eyes locked, and Sarah knew that the battle was far from over. Karen was not the type to back down, and she would stop at nothing to see her vision realized. But Sarah was determined. They had come too far to give up now, and she was ready to do whatever it took to protect the farm and the community she loved. The stage was set for a showdown that would shake the very foundations of their town. In the days that followed, the community's resolve only grew stronger. Residents banded together, organizing volunteers to help repair the damage done to the farm and bolster its security. Fundraisers and donation drives sprung up, with everyone pitching in to ensure the farm's survival. Sarah and Mark worked tirelessly, their hands calloused from the physical labor, but their spirits buoyed by the outpouring of support. Jack, the ever-present pillar of the community, coordinated the efforts, his calm and steady leadership guiding the team through the challenges they faced. Meanwhile, Karen was not about to back down. She continued to leverage her connections within the local government, using every trick in the book to try and undermine the community's efforts. She filed cease and desist orders, threatened legal action, and even attempted to have the farm's permits revoked. But the residents refused to be cowed. They showed up in droves to every town hall meeting, their voices united in a deafening chorus of opposition. They attended city council meetings, pleading their case and refusing to be silenced. Sarah watched in awe as her neighbors, once quiet and unassuming, transformed into passionate activists, willing to do whatever it took to protect the farm and the way of life it represented. One day, as Sarah and Mark were working in the fields, they heard a commotion coming from the direction of the town hall. Exchanging a worried glance, they dropped their tools and rushed to investigate. What they found was a sight to behold. The town hall was packed to the brim, with residents spilling out onto the steps and into the street. At the center of the chaos stood Jack, his face flushed with emotion as he addressed the crowd. "We've been heard," he shouted, his voice cutting through the din. "The city council has agreed to hold a special election, and we're going to put this issue to a vote." The crowd erupted in a thunderous roar of approval, their fists pumping the air in triumph. Sarah felt a surge of hope, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was it, the moment they had been fighting for. The fate of the farm, and the very soul of their community, would be decided by the people. Sarah knew that the stakes had never been higher, and she was determined to do whatever it took to ensure that the farm, and all that it represented, would be preserved. As the crowd dispersed, Sarah caught sight of Karen, her face twisted with a mixture of fury and desperation. She knew that the battle was far from over, and that Karen would stop at nothing to try and secure her victory. But Sarah was undaunted. She had the support of her community, and she knew that together, they were unstoppable. The stage was set for a showdown that would define the future of their town. The day of the special election arrived, and the town was abuzz with activity. Residents streamed into the polling stations, their faces etched with a mix of determination and anticipation. Sarah and Mark had spent the morning canvassing the neighborhood, knocking on doors and encouraging their neighbors to get out and vote. They knew that every single vote would count, and they were determined to leave no stone unturned. As the polls closed and the votes were tallied, the tension in the air was palpable. Sarah and Mark waited anxiously, their hands clasped tightly together, as the results began to trickle in. And then the announcement came. The community had spoken, and they had resoundingly rejected Karen's proposal to remove the farm and its animals. A cheer went up from the crowd gathered outside the town hall, and Sarah felt a wave of relief and pride wash over her. They had done it. They had stood up to Karen and the neighborhood association, and they had won. As the news spread through the town, people began to pour out of their homes, their faces alight with joy and celebration. Neighbors embraced one another, tears of happiness streaming down their cheeks. Sarah and Mark hurried to the farm, where they found Jack standing amidst the herd of animals, a broad smile on his weathered face. "We did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "The farm is safe, and our way of life has been preserved." Sarah threw her arms around Jack, her own tears mingling with his. "Thank you," she whispered, "for never giving up and for always being there for us." Jack shook his head, his eyes shining with pride. "This wasn't just about me, Sarah," he said. "This was about all of us, coming together to protect something that we hold dear. And that's exactly what we did." In the days that followed, the town celebrated its victory, with residents hosting potlucks, organizing community events, and finding new ways to support the farm and its animals. The once fractured community had been forged anew, united in their shared love for the land and the way of life it represented. As for Karen, she had been resoundingly defeated, her dreams of a pristine community shattered by the unwavering determination of the people she had sought to control. She had been voted out of her position as head of the neighborhood association, her influence and power reduced to a shadow of what it had once been. Sarah and Mark watched as the farm thrived, its animals well cared for, and its bounty shared with the community. They knew that the battle had been hard fought, but the victory was all the sweeter for it. In the end, the town had come together, standing up to a bully and defending the things that truly mattered. And that, more than anything, was a testament to the power of a community united. In the aftermath of the election, the town basked in a newfound sense of unity and purpose. The residents, once divided by Karen's machinations, had come together to defend the farm and the values it represented, and the triumph had only strengthened their bonds. Sarah and Mark, along with their neighbors, threw themselves into the task of rebuilding and revitalizing the farm. They worked tirelessly, their hands calloused and their spirits high, as they tended to the animals and prepared the land for the upcoming growing season. Jack, the ever-present pillar of the community, served as a mentor and guide, sharing his expertise and wisdom with the younger generations. He beamed with pride as he watched the farm flourish, its fields lush and its animals healthy and content. Karen, on the other hand, had retreated from public life, her once formidable influence all but extinguished. The residents took great satisfaction in her humiliation, their once suppressed resentment towards her now given voice in the form of whispered conversations and knowing glances. As the months passed, the farm became the beating heart of the community, a gathering place where people could come together to share meals, swap stories, and celebrate the bounty of the land. Families flocked to the farm's weekly markets, eager to purchase the freshest produce and support the local economy. Sarah and Mark marveled at the transformation, their once quiet town now alive with a renewed sense of energy and purpose. They knew that the battle had been hard fought, but the rewards were more than worth it. One day, as Sarah was tending to the vegetable garden, she heard a familiar voice call out to her. It was Mrs. Takahashi, her face alight with a warm smile. "Sarah," she said, her voice gentle, "I just wanted to thank you and your family for all that you've done. This farm is the heart of our community, and we're all so grateful that you fought to protect it." Sarah felt a lump in her throat, her eyes filling with tears of joy. "It's been a long and difficult journey," she replied, "but I wouldn't have it any other way. This farm and this community mean everything to us." Mrs. Takahashi reached out and squeezed Sarah's hand, her own eyes shining with emotion. "I know," she said, "and that's why we'll always be here to support you. This farm, and all that it represents, is the foundation of our town, and we'll never let anyone take that away from us." As Sarah watched Mrs. Takahashi walk away, she felt a deep sense of gratitude and pride. The battle may have been won, but the work of building a stronger, more resilient community was just beginning. And she was more than ready to be a part of it. In the years that followed, the small town's triumph over Karen's attempts to remove the family farm became the stuff of local legend. The story of how a community united to defend their way of life spread far and wide, inspiring others to stand up against injustice and fight for the things they held dear. Sarah and Mark's farm flourished, its fields brimming with a diverse array of crops and its pastures home to a thriving herd of animals. The weekly market became a beloved institution, drawing in people from neighboring towns who were eager to experience the community's vibrant energy and support its local economy. Jack, the stalwart farmer, became a beloved figure, respected and admired by all who knew him. He mentored a new generation of young farmers, passing on his knowledge and instilling in them the same deep-rooted connection to the land that had sustained his own family for generations. Karen, meanwhile, had all but vanished from the public eye, her once formidable influence reduced to little more than a distant memory. The residents took great pride in this, their victory over her serving as a powerful reminder that a united community could overcome even the most daunting of challenges. As the years passed, the town continued to evolve and grow, but the farm remained a constant, a touchstone that anchored the community and kept it grounded in the values that had always defined it. Families came and went, but the love and respect for the land and the way of life it represented endured. For Sarah and Mark, the triumph over Karen's attempts to uproot their way of life had been a defining moment, a testament to the power of community and the enduring strength of the human spirit. They knew that the battle had been hard fought, but the rewards were more than worth it. A thriving farm, a vibrant community, and a legacy that would be passed down for generations to come. As they stood together, surveying the lush fields and the contented animals, Sarah squeezed Mark's hand, her eyes shining with a deep, abiding pride. "We did it," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "We saved our home, our way of life, and our community, and we did it together." Mark smiled, his own eyes crinkling at the corners. "Yes," he replied, "and that's what makes it all the more special. This farm, this town, they're not just ours, they belong to all of us, and we'll always be here to protect them, no matter what." With that, they turned and headed back to the farmhouse, their steps light and their hearts full. The battle may have been won, but the work of building a better future was just beginning.